This is a quick start guide to using Adobe Illustrator to create little prototypes and wireframes for your website. We're going to be looking at a couple of tools, the page tool, the rectangle tool, how to resize things, the type tool as well. And with those tools, you should be able to put together a pretty decent wireframe so you can use when planning and strategizing websites and website content. First thing you'll need to do in Adobe Illustrator once it's fired up is create a new page for your document. Go to File, New, and on this screen you'll be presented with a couple of options. Devices will give you options on whether to use print or web, variety of other devices. Honestly, it doesn't really matter. You can go with print at this point. Number of artboards will be 1. Your width and height, by default, Adobe Illustrator uses points, but you can change that to something different. You can choose pixels. And in the pixel area, if you know your website is going to be 960 pixels wide, you might want to give yourself some extra space left and right for showing backgrounds or whatever. So let's give yourself 1024 pixels for the width, and the height, honestly, we can change that at any time. Give yourself at least 1280 pixels there. We don't need bleeds. These are all printing related features. Color mode, you'll probably want to switch to RGB. Seeing as we're going to be sticking to digital, we don't expect to output this to a color printer or anything. And just click OK at that point. Your document will appear. To view rulers, click on View, Show Rulers, or you can press Ctrl R, and the rulers are located along the top and along the left and allow you to get a sense of scale and dimension. Now again, Illustrator will feature units in points, which is more of a print related setting. To change that very quickly and easily, you can just right click on one of these rulers and switch to pixels. Oh, okay, good. We're in pixel mode here. So we're working using pixels, as you can see, 0 to 1024, somewhere there. To zoom in, you have your little magnifying glass over there. The little zoom tool allows you to click and get in closer. Now you'll notice as you get in closer, the details on the pixels get more and more detailed until you zoom in max size, and then each square over here is equivalent to 1 pixel. You can also use your keyboard, which I find a lot faster. You can press Control- to zoom out and Control+ to zoom in. And to move around, you can press the space bar and then move your document around on the screen so you can change position while you're moved in. What else? If you look up here, it'll tell you what zoom you're at any given point. So right now we're at 100%. We're at basically 1:1, which is what we want to be working at for a more realistic view of what our website will look like in the real world. And the next thing we want to probably do is pull out a couple of guidelines. So the guidelines allow us to line things up very nicely. And you saw what I did was I just clicked one of the rulers over here on the left, and I want to pull out some vertical guidelines. Just click and drag, and then you just drop them in there. Okay, we're going to be able to move those around. Over here on your left are your tools. Over here on your right are your panels. We're going to be switching back and forth given some things that we're going to be doing here. What you want to do is click on the rectangle tool, just for kicks right now, and to create a rectangle, once you have your tool selected, you can just click and drag. There's really not much more to it than that. Just click and drag, click and drag. To select an existing rectangle that you just, or any shape in general, for that you'll have to use your selection tool, which is your arrow right here at the top. So you can click here, and if you hover over the shape, you'll see it light up, and clicking on it will allow you to select it. You can also select shapes by clicking and dragging. So if you want to select multiple shapes, you can just click and drag like that, and now the frame is around both of them, which means you can now click and drag them and move them to a new location. You can grab a corner here and resize them. And you can also scale them proportionally by holding down the Shift key on your keyboard. So the way it works is you hold down Shift, and with your mouse you click and drag. All the time holding down Shift. You let go of your mouse when you're happy, and then you let go of the Shift button, and you should be okay. So this will scale things proportionally. Back to the rectangle button. If you want to draw a perfect square, you can hold down again the Shift button, and when you drag out, you'll notice that you're restricted to drawing only perfect squares. Now, if you need your shape to be a specific dimension, click on this, for example, this guy over here, you'll notice along the top, your little ribbon over here has a lot of information. The X and Y coordinates, that's how many pixels it is left and right from the top corner of the page. If I move it in the top corner here, it should go to 0. And if I move it here, you'll get the X and Y coordinates. You'll also get the dimensions, the width and the height of this box. Now, if you need it to be a specific width and height, you can put the values in here right away. So, okay, I want this to be exactly 300 pixels wide and 250 pixels tall. And you'll see the box resizes to accommodate exactly those dimensions. What else? Assigning color and outlines. Right now, by default, it has just a thin outline and a white fill. How can you tell? If you look down here in the bottom left, this is your fill color, and this is your outline color. In Illustrator, it's called the stroke. So the stroke is black, the fill is white, and you can tell that because if I move this shape over, we can't see through it because it's pure white. If I want to change that color, make sure your shape is selected, click on the color, double click, sorry, and here you're presented with the color picker tool where you can switch your hue, go from blue to red to green or yellow, etc., and then select your value here, whether it's like really, really intense blue over here, dark, or just light with very little or no color at all. So you can select your shades of gray from over here. Click OK, and it applies it now to the shape. To change the stroke, again, select your shape, double click the stroke icon over here, and now you can assign a different value to your stroke. So your shape ends up looking something like this now. To save your colors, make sure you click on your swatches panel over here on the right. You can give yourself a bit of room by dragging down these panels and resizing them. You can even take them out and bring them a bit closer. And what you want to do is grab the stroke from over here and just drag it into there, and then click on the fill, for example. If you choose something fancy like this red, and you'll want to keep looking for it over and over again, you can just grab that and throw that into your panel as well. So now if you need to quickly change something or apply something, make sure your fill is selected and then click over here and it quickly applies that color. You have objects below and objects above. We're working in a multiple layer document, so the newer shapes will always be on top of the older shapes. So if I create a new shape over here, it will be on top or over this arrangement over here. If I pull this one, you'll see it overlaps these three and is on a higher level. So as I'm building these shapes, they gain a certain hierarchy in the way they're arranged in the layers. So if I want to move this above this one, I have to right click on it, arrange, and bring to front. If any of you have ever worked with something like Microsoft PowerPoint, it's a very similar concept to that. You can have some shapes overlapping other shapes, and you can change the order by moving things up or down or sending them all the way to the back. So if I click here, arrange, send to back. Now you'll also notice the right click on a shape will provide you with a lot of other options, depends on the shape. But primarily this is what how the rectangle tool works, and again you can stretch and resize things as you see fit, or assign specific values that you need for your design. You'll notice also that as you move stuff around on the screen, you'll have these little hints that let you know when things are lined up. Right? These little bright green lines that change as you shift things around. So you now know with this indicator that the center of this block that I'm moving and the center of that red block beneath are aligned. So the edge of this box with the edge of that one, depending on where you're moving stuff, these guides will help you keep your design very tight and clean by lining things up easily. Again, if you ever need to line things up efficiently, you can just draw out these guidelines. So okay, if I want to align something along this line here, it provides me with a visual, and you'll notice as you move the shapes onto it, it's like a little magnet that snaps and they stick to that line. So this gives you the freehand way of lining things up very, very nicely. Right? So you can see that this edge is lined up with that edge, etc. What else? Oh, to move these guidelines around, by default when you pull them out, they're locked, so that if you're selecting things on your page, you don't accidentally keep selecting these guidelines. What you need to do is right click and uncheck the lock guides toggle, and now you can grab it and move it around, reposition it, or if you want to delete it, just press the delete key on your keyboard and it's gone. Same thing here, you can right click and relock them or hide them, depends what you want to do. So to start off a document, what you would probably want to begin with is the proper settings, and you'll see here I can select everything, delete on my keyboard, and it's all gone. What you probably want to do is start off with proper dimensions for your document. So I'm going to use the rectangle tool to just draw out a basic shape over here. And what I want to ensure is that the width of my document is something that I can work with, and I know that it needs to be 960 pixels. So you can just type that in there, and you don't have to sit there dragging things out with the ruler hoping that it sticks and you get it right. You just type it in, and you know now that this box is exactly 960 pixels. grab the edge and you can move it, and you'll see as you move it, it'll pop a little vertical line over here that's telling you that it's centered to the page. Okay, so now we have our width established and we know it's centered to our big document. At this point now you can grab a guideline from the left and establish the left side, and don't forget, if it disappears, it doesn't mean it's gone. It's probably just has no color and no outline. But if you hover your mouse over it, it'll activate. So you can click there and maybe give it a light color that you can help you see it. Again, you can draw out the other guideline over here on the other edge. And there you go. Now we know that this is 960 pixels from one guideline to the next guideline, and it's centered nicely. You know, if you want to have a background at this point, you can pull this out and reshape it, etc. So the next thing you want to do is ask yourself, okay, how do I want to arrange my document, right? So what's helpful to do with these blocks is to figure out, you know, where certain sections on your page can be. So we know it's 960. Maybe we want to use a nice round number for the top, either 120. That's a decent size for a header area. You can fit a logo in there. If you want to have a navigation bar, click on the rectangle tool, and again here you can just draw out another box. And now with those guidelines, you can see 960 pixels is very easy. Height is 38. You might want to make it a more round number, or not. It's up to you, of course, at this point. So you can click up here and say, well, 40 is easier to remember than 38. These are exactly adjacent to one another, so they're the same color. Maybe you want to change the color on that one so you can see it more clearly. Don't forget, you can also use outlines to give some more definition to these shapes. Now, another very important component is text, which we're going to be getting to very shortly. But you might want to finish up pulling out these shapes. So let's say our main content area is going to be 720 pixels. Or maybe this is a home page and I want to have a really nice big graphic to welcome people to the website, like that big. And this one, I'll make sure it's a different color so that it stands out. I might want to make it even, darker gray. Oops. Don't forget to switch from stroke color to fill color, right? If you click here, the little red diagonal line will remove that color. And here you can choose your fill color. Keep things light. Keep things, from getting too heavy, because it'll make it more difficult later on if you need to add elements. And if you want to swap the background color with the foreground color, you can just click this little swap fill here. Just click, and you see it takes the fill color and makes it a stroke. Next thing you want to do is probably start adding some text to this, and to do that we can use the text tool that's located over here, the type tool. And there's two types, two ways of putting type on your page. One, you can just click here and you'll notice if I move my cursor near one of these shapes, it turns round. You might probably not want to do that at this point, because what it assumes is that you want to click in there and use that container as a text box, which is not really what we want to do. What we want to do is treat our text like independent objects, right? So make sure nothing is selected, right? Okay, that one, let's give it a bit of color so that it's doesn't disappear. Yeah, undo, undo. There we go, back to normal. So for text, what you want to do is click here and then click an empty area on your document. It doesn't even have to be on your document. It could be like off in your workspace over here, right? Anywhere. So just click and type whatever your title is. So this would be the title text. Don't worry about the size. We'll be able to fix that shortly. So click your selection tool. The selection handles appear around it. Again, you can now shift, click, and drag to resize the text to whatever size you want. And along here, the strip changes to reflect the object that you're currently working on and some of its attributes. So right now it's Myriad Pro Font, regular weight, and size 59.93. Again, this is something you can modify right away. You can choose a different typeface over here. Depends what you want to use. You can use the sans, that one, bold, and you might want to round off that number so it makes it easier to remember. Size 60. And now you can grab this and place this anywhere on your document. You can scale it. You can make it larger, smaller, etc. And the numbers here will change accordingly. Again, if you want to override any of these changes, you can just go here, type in 60, boom, it resizes. You can click here, drag it using the select tool. The other way of putting in content and text is by creating a paragraph box, and it's similar to what we did earlier when we clicked in one of these existing rectangles. But again, what you want to do is keep these things separate. So for this, what you would do is click the same type tool, same as before, but instead of just clicking and typing, what you'll do is drag out a box. And now this type box constrains your text, and this becomes more like paragraph text. So lorem ipsum, whatever. You'll see that if it's too big, it will spill over and will be hidden, and you'll notice this tiny little red mark letting you know that there's more text, but the box is too small to contain it. So if you stretch out the box, you'll start seeing that text appear. Now another thing with this box is, unlike the other text here, if we pull and drag the box, it distorts or resizes the text. Whereas here, it's a container, so the text remains the same, it just won't show all of it. Now the reason why you would use this is, let's say you have some paragraph text that you want to make sure fits in to a certain spot, right? And now we'll change this to Arial 12 point. So this is more like body text, and if you have a lot of it, you can fill it up with text. So this becomes your paragraph text, and what this allows you to do is you can now resize this box to see how that text will fit accordingly. So play around with this. For more control, you have little panels that you can activate. So go to your window. You have your type library over here. You can choose character style, and you can also choose your paragraph style. And here you can do some fine tuning. Again, if you're familiar with Microsoft Word, you should be able to figure out what this stuff does. Like leading and indentations and hyphenations and all that stuff. You can choose to hyphenate or not. So feel free to experiment. I mean, a lot of this stuff you can discover. These little panels also have some additional options if you click the little box here, which gives you even more features to control. Keep it simple. These are just wireframes, so what we're trying to accomplish here is, you know, not an artistic masterpiece, but more of a utilitarian document that we can use to say, okay, well, you know, this is going to be where my logo goes, and now I can, you know, type, you know, logo and drag it in there. But we need to make that white, so I can choose either a color from my palette over here or an existing one from over there, right? So that's our fill color for the text. And I can resize it. You know, I'm pressing down the Shift key or the Shift Alt key to make sure that it scales properly. If I'm going to create a navigation bar, again, you can use, you know, a series of boxes. You know, copy paste works as well. You know, if we choose that and copy paste, Control C, Control V, Control C, Control V, and you know, now we can add more elements here using the text home. If you find things are a little small, you can zoom in, right? Don't be shy. You can zoom in by pressing Control plus, and then using the little hand tool, the space bar, or here you can click it there to drag the page around and zoom in and fine tune. And again, you can copy and paste. It saves a lot of time, and then you can just move things in position. You'll see it lines up when the green line appears, so you know that you're in the right zone. And now you can just double click that little text box and type, you know, your next menu item. And you can keep building things this way, and eventually you'll have a document that comes together outlining everything. So to sum up, create your document, create your page by going to File, New Document, and choosing your dimensions there. Usually the defaults are fine. Regardless of what document is chosen, you should be okay. Following that, you want to be able to draw basic rectangles, and you want to be able to assign fill colors and stroke colors to those. Those colors can be saved here in the swatches panel. The guidelines will allow you to, you know, pull them out of your ruler and use them as ways to make sure things are lined up. Again, a lot of these elements you can control by using the little strip here at the top. And for text, you have the two different types of text, one being character text, which is controlled by this panel over here, and the other being paragraph text, which gives you different effects and different options. So don't forget, character text, you click the T tool and then you just click somewhere and start typing. This allows you to grab the container and scale it by holding down the Shift key to make sure it doesn't distort. Whereas with the paragraph tool, you'll click the same icon over here in your toolbar, but you'll need to define the size of that box before you start typing in here, or just, you know, adding in content. Now, if one of your things disappears, right? I drew out a box and then I went somewhere else and now it disappeared. Don't worry. Your selection tool will allow you to, there you go, if you move in that area, activate it, and you can click on it. Whoop, there it is. You know, double click with your type tool in there, and now you should be able to start typing. Oops. There. There you go. So feel free to experiment. You can't really break anything. If you're looking for additional shapes beyond rectangles, those are hidden and will reveal themselves. You click, for example, the rectangle tool and hold your mouse down on it. It will pop up this little flyout menu where you can choose different types of shapes. So if you want to switch to circles for a change, you can use the ellipse tool, which freehand will draw ellipses, but if you hold down the Shift key, like the rectangle, we'll draw perfect circles that are sized whatever way you go. Good luck, and don't forget to save your work frequently.